No, you were talking about I'm going to pee myself because Obama is there. I actually peed myself on stage.
No.
As Hedwig last year.
What? Okay, what happened?
Well, we had 1 hour between shows because we do 2 at night.
Okay.
And I forgot to pee.
Oh my God. Like at the top?
In the middle.
Oh,
so it was 2 shows with an hour between.
Oh, okay. I see.
So in the second show, I'm reaching, I'm like, oh my God. What am I going to do? I'm on stage all the time.
Yeah.
There's one moment where someone else sings a song.
Yeah.
And I withdraw up stage. I withdrew up stage and just
let
released.
It go. Amazing.
In the shadows.
Hey.
But had to come forward dripping.
Hey.
Reaching, slowly for a towel.
Dramatically.
Trying to like not let, as I was singing,
Yeah.
But you gotta.
Yeah. Hey.
It's rock and roll.
I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. Hey, yo, I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot. I'ma get a scholarship to King's College. I probably shouldn't brag, but dag, I'm amazed and astonished. The problem is I got a lot of brains, but no polish. I gotta holler just to be heard with every word. I drop knowledge. I'm a diamond in the rough.
Hi, I'm Elia Einhorn, podcast producer at the Talkhouse. Welcome to the Talkhouse Music Podcast. This episode is a Broadway takeover featuring Hedwig and the Angry Inch creator and original star John Cameron Mitchell in conversation with Javier Muñoz, the other Alexander Hamilton, in runaway smash hip-hop hit musical Hamilton. These two truly believe that musical theater can change lives and push society forward. Their own lives and this talk echo that sentiment. John Cameron Mitchell rose to international acclaim with the musical and movie Hedwig and the Angry Inch, which won 4 Tonys for its current Broadway revival. The show follows a genderqueer East German should-be rock star on a tour to wrest back the songs a young love stole from her. Mitchell also wrote and directed the film Short Bus, directed Rabbit Hole, and has shot videos for Bright Eyes, Scissor Sisters, and Sigur Rós. He recently acted in Girls and is Andy Warhol in HBO's Vinyl. Mitchell is currently editing his new movie How to Talk to Girls at Parties, which stars Nicole Kidman and Elle Fanning and is slated for a 2017 release. Javier Muñoz made his name as Usnavi in Broadway's In the Heights. Along with the show's creator Lin-Manuel Miranda, Muñoz plays Alexander Hamilton in Broadway's absolute mega hit Hamilton, a musical about, the life of Alexander Hamilton and the founding of America told through hip-hop. If that sounds dry, trust the rave reviews on this one. It's amazing. Muñoz performed the night that President Obama watched the show, and the New York Times recently said of his Sunday matinee performances, Alexander Hamilton is sexy on Sundays. The two spoke as part of the Talkhouse's ongoing series of live podcast recordings at Samsung 837 in Manhattan's Meatpacking District. Muñoz and Mitchell cover a lot here. Rock and roll and hip-hop on Broadway, sure, but also Pussy Riot, New York City's constant evolution, the way social media can inhibit artistic development, Glee, David Bowie, and so much more. Check it out.
Hi.
This is awesome.
Well, we already started talking.
I know we have. Sorry guys, we've been talking since we got here.
Yeah. A lot of it is like technical stuff about our union. What rights do we have as actors? Actors are usually just grateful to work, but
exactly.
that
gets old.
heaps a lot of intolerance on top of them. Well, one of the things we talked about was how Broadway musicals were getting around the world without being seen.
Yep.
Sometimes, and you said there's been a lot of communication just through the Hamilton soundtrack.
Yeah, it's we have so many people who can't get to New York to see the show,
right,
or just afford the ticket itself.
Yeah,
and so the soundtrack, the cast recording is like the most accessible means to hear it, digest it, experience the piece. And now actually there's also going to be a book that's coming out, which is it's really fantastic. Lynn has coined it the Hamiltome, and it's huge, and it's just, step by step, all the details.
The development of how it was.
All of it.
Yeah.
And it's done beautifully. And
it'd be cool if it had an audio component to hear earlier versions of songs.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah, actually, that would be neat.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if maybe further on, maybe Lin might do a compilation of that, but it will have a what do you call it? An audiobook version, and so that's who knows what they'll add to that, but
that's great.
Yeah, and it's a way for I mean, I've got a lot of folks on Twitter and Facebook who that's their only way to access the show.
Yeah. Well, I mean, have the producers had a mechanism for young people to have, other than the usual student rush or lottery, of being able to see the show for less?
There's a school program that goes into effect, I think, next month, where it's for $10. We're getting whole just classes and schools and young people who just would never be able to afford the ticket cost, but need to see this.
Yeah.
The audience that really will benefit the most of our young people.
But is that like seats that aren't sold? Well, it's sold out all the time. So they're actually carving out some money.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. It's pretty awesome.
We never did that. Because we couldn't afford to.
I love it though. No, it's gonna be super. It's gonna be really super.
Yeah, there's a strange. There'll eventually be a Hamilton film, which will I hope so. Penetrate, places that aren't necessarily going to be able to see the play, even if they can afford it. But it is strange that with all the predictions of the death of theater over the last 30 years, that the necessity for people to be in the same room experiencing a live event that is narrative hasn't gone away, and in fact, it's increased. I mean, hasn't Broadway, become hotter than ever?
It has. It's revived in an enormous way. I mean, but thank God, I don't want that to go away. There is something profound about being in the room and it being live and experiencing that together and the dynamic of what the audience brings in. They bring in and they change, they impact the story when they're sitting there with their energy collectively,
Yeah. And different kinds of music. Hip hop and rock and roll, Hedwig spaces, are pretty ancient. When you think about at least since for hip hop for late 70s, but
yes,
for rock and roll much earlier. So it is funny that our two shows are, oh wow, it's so innovative. Like, not really. It's just a little later that these things have has surfaced, or that people have maybe done it with a bit more care for the authenticity of the music. There's always been rock musicals that weren't very rock and roll, and hip hop things weren't really that hip hop. Yeah. And it's hard to find a sweet spot that is fully satisfying the musical side of things and the narrative side. That's, people forget that musicals also take 3 to 4 years at least,
hopefully,
to be developed.
Yeah.
And ours certainly was. A lot of it has to do with the time between the productions to rewrite and think it through. And
how long was your process for Hedwig?
It was, Stephen Trask and I started working on it at a club called Squeeze Box, which is a rock and roll drag queer club in Lower Western Soho in 94. So we got to Off-Broadway in 98. So
okay. Yeah, that's right. Okay.
But we wanted to develop it in clubs rather than theater to kind of keep the energy of the rock performance up.
Yeah.
And so we eschewed the usual theatrical workshop environment. But we did sort of mid kind of rock cabaret things too, to kind of on our way to the theater, like at Fez and Westbeth, which were,
nice.
The kind of best place. They were the kind of more alternative cabaret spaces. So it was something else, before. It was kind of a band, and then it was a kind of a rock cabaret act, and then it was a musical.
That's so interesting.
And, so we took our time to do it right, and Stephen came from the music world, I came from the theater world, and we had stuff to teach each other. Did Lin ever have a a band or a hip hop?
Sort of. He has. It's called Freestyle Love Supreme, and it's a hip hop improv group. And so,
Has he had that for a while?
Yeah, he's had that for a very long time. And
they finally reached the pinnacle with the Obama.
Yeah.
Obama improv.
Yeah, there you have it. Yeah, it leads up to that moment.
Nowhere to go now. Putin with flashcards.
Hey.
He could use it probably.
He could.
Yeah. I'm scared what the words would be.
We should he should do the improving rap though. Lin should hold the cue cards. We should make Putin rap.
Oh God. I just met two of the Pussy Riot girls and they are fierce. And they got a lot of work to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, they're an example of, taking pop culture the way they learned it, which is actually from punk rock and Bikini Kill and feminist kind of punk performance and getting it out there, also with the help of a lot of people getting their story out there to question the status quo. And very fierce, very committed women, very young,
Right.
thrown into prison, not daunted, becoming prison rights activists. One of the girls was in solitary for 11 months over 2 years.
Oh my gosh, I did not know that.
Yeah, that was Masha. I just met her. We did a panel thing in Asbury Park, and it was, we're kind of cushy here in New York, and realizing that there's got to be something useful about the things that you make for as much of the world as possible. You don't have to pander, but there's something about challenging.
Yes.
And when I first saw, it's really hard to go see a show with the kind of hype of Hamilton.
Yes.
Hedwig trickled up as opposed to down, but Hamilton was like, okay, people come in, it's like, oh, really? And then you go in and you're like, yes, really. And it got better the 2 times I saw it, and it's so
awesome.
Exciting to see it.
Thanks.
Yeah. And it must be exciting to do that role.
It is. Yeah, absolutely is. It's so huge, and I can't fathom the day that I'll be bored by it. That's seems impossible. There's just too much to keep digging into and keep discovering, and yeah, it's awesome.
Wow.
But excuse me. I like the point you just said about it has to be useful. That's so important. I think that's really important.
Yeah, if you're going to work that hard, also, it might as well try to make things a little bit better in some way. With Hedwig, I never thought of speaking for any, community. It's not really a transgender story or a plea for rights or anything, but it's a specific person who was kind of forced into a situation by circumstance and by a weird political, very macho kind of way of looking at the world, and finds herself in a situation where recreation is necessary or death is the only other option.
Yeah.
And it's been kind of exciting to see that story, originally based on a Plato story about the origin of love, has translated to a lot of cultures, a lot of religions, a lot of ways of thinking, and be useful as a story about finding yourself and not, what do you do when you're not fitting in? Can that be actually a benefit in the long run to your uniqueness, loneliness to empowerment? And who would think that a theater piece would do that? Because that's not really, it's a fringe thing in the scheme of things.
Yes, indeed. But that I must take the opportunity to say that's the profound impact it had on my life. Was the at the time the lack of or the void of a presence, of a representation that was positive and empowering and reflective of sort of the inner workings in me that I didn't have a representation until you created this thing. And it was very profound for me.
Well, I think the same thing is happening with Hamilton, and it's going to live on in many different ways. It sounds like, Lin has a lot of plans for it.
Yeah, he does. And I think I think the greatest impact for being part of it is the diversity of the cast.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's something that is part of the policy, right? It's like keeping that diversity, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's, that's the part of the person who can't come see the show that sort of, I always, it sort of almost, kind of breaks my heart. It's like, you really need to see it. Like, I'm so thankful we have the recording to go out and the book to go out and all those things, and eventually a tour and it's really, it's the impact of that representation of seeing you up there, right, in some positive way. And
could I ever play Alexander Hamilton?
Why not?
Eventually. Lin said he wanted to play Hedwig.
There you go. Yo, swap.
I love it. I've ever seen True West and, Philip Seymour Hoffman and who was it? His buddy from
the worst
Boogie Nights. They would switch off. Who was it? Somebody help me. You know who I'm talking about.
I do. I
Red
see his
hair,
face.
brilliant actor.
Yeah. The worst.
But every other night they would switch off. I mean, they were in the same play.
Oh, that's right. Yes,
Yeah,
I forgot that. That's right.
And they were so good.
Oh my gosh, that I would definitely pay to see both you as Hamilton and Lin as Hedwig.
I'm too white.
No,
Too
you'd rock
goddamn
it.
white. My mom was an immigrant. They get shit done. Oh,
sorry.
Well, here we are in the middle of the meatpacking district, which I don't see any meat anymore.
No.
We were remembering being here. Are you from here? Where are you from?
I'm born and raised in Brooklyn.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a native. So yeah, I used to walk around here way back. I was probably 15 when I started coming into the city.
Really?
On my own and getting into trouble.
Yeah. Well, that's when you can get in.
Yeah.
You could get in.
Exactly.
At 15.
You totally could.
Yeah. Well, this was the crazy gay clubs and S&M place. It was, meat by day and other meat by night.
Indeed.
I just saw the Robert Mapplethorpe documentary last night, and they had footage of this area, and I was just like, God, it used to be so scary and exciting when I first came here in 85, which, there was death and carnage and crack and AIDS, and but there was also a vitality of art and empathy and politics that was
thriving here.
Very, very exciting and scary, and it was New York, and a lot of is unique about New York has seeped away because of economics and real estate.
Yep, essentially, yes. I
It's
agree.
still New York, so it's still always going to be an amazing capital of culture, but it's very, very odd to walk around here right now.
It's true. All the shops and the cleanliness is always
green
what
room we
strikes
were
me.
just in downstairs. I mean, that could have been a dungeon.
It could have. It probably was.
I think I went to a place on
down this street, right? And
Allure.
it was See, I feel you mentioned that, and I swear, if I haven't been there, I certainly know what it was. But I want to say I probably was. I just, it's a million years ago.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. But there's also a continuity that comes through doing the shows at these theaters too. What's the name of your theater again?
Richard Rogers. Yeah.
Right, which was, I forget the name of it before, but we were in the Belasco, and there is a wonderful feeling that you get when you're in there and knowing the other shows that were
there
in the
before.
space and the effect that they had, or the pleasure they gave, or the money they lost.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's like an imprint. Yeah, absolutely.
And we had Mark Rylance in our theater right before us. one of the greatest English-speaking actors. He was doing 12th Night, and and every actor or every production adds something in some way to the. And we have this big space under the theater, and he made it into a bar.
Oh, nice.
Which
the
myth was that Harry Houdini built the space under the stage to make his elephants disappear.
Oh my gosh, no way.
Yeah. And it's this huge space that you never get in these theaters, but I still get that thrill, I still want to be close to it, because it's something physical, it's
absolutely
the form is still somehow not been able to be digitized.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, you can't duplicate that experience over any other medium. Really.
Yeah, it's really hard to film a theater piece. I think the most successful one was actually in our theater was Spike Lee's Passing Strange film.
So good.
It's really good.
It's really good. Yeah, and I love that cast.
Yeah, usually it's just a few cameras, and he took the time to shoot with an audience, but then also bring cameras on stage without an audience and get
those close-up moments. Yeah. Yep. It's so vital and that's the but even still, I mean, you could try to recreate those moments cinematically, but if you
without the audience,
right, but if you the creator of that cinema aren't really clear as to what the thing is, you still may not really capture it.
Yeah.
It's
also weird to think that it probably a show like Glee had a lot to do with keeping theater, or at least musical theater, going for reintroducing it for young people.
Indeed.
If it was still on, I'm sure there'd be that Hamilton show, right?
Oh, yes.
We were too weird for a Hedwig show, but
you were ahead of your time. You were ahead of your time. You paved the way.
Well,
yeah.
There were a lot of, this year losing David Bowie, who in some ways was the nexus of theater and music.
Absolutely.
Certainly for me, that was a shock to realize how much he'd seeped into so many people's lives and parts of their lives.
Yep.
And
absolutely.
When he came to the show, that was a shocker. Tell me about the Obama experience, though. He came in, Lin was out. It wasn't a show that he was going to do.
Yeah.
And he didn't horn in on your territory.
No, it was really wonderful. Like, I was on my way to the theater, and I was already waiting for the train, and Thomas Kail, the director, he sent me a text saying, hey, could you get here early? Because I want to talk to you. And I, of course, think, great, what'd I do? I screwed something up.
Right.
And I'm going through, my notes. I'm like, what did I forget? Did I forget to do a moment? What, I'm totally not thinking that it's some good news. I get there, he and Lin are sitting in the house, and they're explaining, my first show was that Saturday, and there were going to be 3 performances in preview process that were for Lin to watch. And that's, in my head, that's like the most important moment because it's his last opportunity, before it's quote unquote frozen. And so to me, it's like all the responsibilities to make it as clear of a performance for him, tell the story as clearly as possible for Lin. So that was scheduled for that. My first of the 3 was scheduled that Saturday. And they're telling, I'm sitting there, and Lin and Tommy are telling me, the president's going to come and he's going to come to this show. And so in my head, I'm like, okay, great. That means I'll probably not do the show, and Lin will do it, and maybe I'll get 2 performances out of 3. I'm assuming, no way am I going to do the show.
No.
And no, Tommy indeed says, and we want you to perform
as usual.
Yeah,
as you should.
And I, I'm so thankful they told me privately so that I could piss my shorts, without anyone seeing. and then I sort of was in shock, and I turned to Lin, and Lin just looked at me. He goes, "And you're going to be great." And so, there you have it.
And you said you actually felt pretty good.
I felt great. Yeah, because leading up to it, it was my first shot on the Broadway stage at that point to perform the show. So I was really excited about that. I was so focused on making sure that Lin was going to get everything he needed. And I I really don't get nervous. I really, it's
no
like
time to get nervous.
There isn't.
Were you nervous when Obama came by after?
After, yes, which was intermission.
What did he say? Intermission? So he could get out.
Yeah.
Faster.
Yeah.
Well, what if you had sucked in the second act?
I don't know, public apology maybe.
So you knew he was coming for the intermission?
No, it was all last minute. Our stage
You're like
management
taking
team,
a dump.
Yeah, exactly.
Knock,
in the
knock.
bathroom. Oh, hey.
What did he say?
He was so cool. I mean, just really charismatic and walking around and introducing himself and shaking hands with everybody. And he was making his way towards where I was standing, and in like mid-sentence just turned right to me, shook my hand, and said, "You are great." And I'm frozen. That's it. Like
You're frozen.
Yeah.
The show's frozen.
And
You're frozen.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know what to say or do other than that's amazing.
What are you gonna say? Yeah.
Thank you. But that was.
And he seemed like he really
Yeah.
was
genuine.
into it.
Yeah.
You can tell if someone's just faking it.
Yeah.
Wow.
It
Yeah, he didn't
was-
have to come back.
No, he totally didn't, and he wanted to come talk to us, and and it was so profound, and so
And that led to the cast coming to Washington.
yeah, eventually, because then the DNC had an event, so they bought out a night, and so the entire party was there, or whoever wanted to show.
There's no Republicans in the cast.
I don't know, maybe
Don't talk about it. As the deputy.
as former equity deputy.
Oh, well, we were
I
just
must-
talking about the amazing freestyle that Lin
Oh, it was so
did
cool.
with Obama, and it really is amazing.
Yeah, that's just the coolest thing ever.
Wow.
I mean, I wish I would have been on that trip with everybody, but I had some really great things to do here in the city, and oddly, the feeling was like, I've met them a few times. I feel really good about my relationship with our president and first lady.
Maybe he'll get involved with theater.
You never know, right? Hey, that'd be amazing.
What was your first play that affected you? Or theater piece?
Wow, Hair.
Oh.
It was my parents had their own sort of collection of LPs, and I was sifting through. There was this holiday collection that they had that I always loved, of like 5 records that just every holiday song ever by all the Perry Como and all those it's like just classic, and I was sifting through to find those, and I saw the album cover for Hair in there, and it oddly, I want to say it was my oldest brother's purchase, but my parents held on to it, right? And so I dug the cover, and
It was the original cast.
original cast recording, and I popped it on the record player, and I was gone. I was off in that world, and
That was an important one.
yeah. It's
And that was the rock one that started for me. I mean, people say Jesus Christ Superstar, but that one really got me going. Think, oh, theater can be anything,
That's it, and that is the beginning of what I think. This is sort of a larger point. I think Hair, Hedwig, In the Heights, Hamilton, Passing Strange. These shows that are Rent, that are the story that someone just wants and needs to tell, but not necessarily
in the usual way.
Yeah, exactly.
But still learning from the great structures of classical musicals too. That was something, the 11 o'clock number, the 2-act structure, learning from the best and then adding your own thing,
What was
working on
yours?
a new musical. I think it was probably, I don't know, I was really into the Cabaret soundtrack and the early Chicago one, and Ain't Misbehavin'.
Oh, nice.
It's actually my favorite.
Wow,
Yeah.
cool.
Which is more of a review, but it felt more authentic than some Broadway music because it was, it was jazz, or,
Yep.
early pop jazz, and it was Nell Carter and Ken Page and Andre DeShields and all these amazing performers, and that was Yeah. And then later, when I was doing Hedwig, it was seeing Sandra Bernhardt's show, Without You, I'm Nothing, which was a kind of a conceptual review. And all that jazz and Fame when I was a kid. And then
Our
later,
version of Glee.
Our version of Glee was Fame, which is actually a pretty good movie. You should see it. I mean, I don't know if you've seen it in a while, but
love it.
Yeah, I mean, Barry Miller, the Jew playing the Puerto Rican. I believed it.
Totally.
He actually took me under his wing later when I did a TV show in college.
Wow.
Barry Miller was like, very like, do it your way. They'll try to crush you. They threw him off a bridge, in Saturday Night Fever, and he was like punk rock,
That's awesome.
And a guy named Meshack Taylor was my other kind of mentor. He played Jim in Huck Finn that I did at the Goodman, and he was started out in Mamet's group, Organic Theater, and went on to do Designing Women and Mannequin. But
I love that movie.
Yeah, he was the Black Queen. He taught me all about stuff.
I love it.
So we all have our mentors and our influences.
Yeah.
Tom Waits actually too. I saw The Black Rider, which was Robert Wilson's musical piece with Tom Waits and William Burroughs writing.
Oh my.
Which was very expressionistic and German and really inspiring for Hedwig. Like theater, musical theater can be anything with any kind of music.
Yeah.
I'm working on a new musical now.
Oh, exciting.
With a friend, and it musically will be, other kinds of stuff that you don't usually hear.
I can't wait.
Yeah. So this year is about writing that. It's a form that, my new film, is in the punk rock era. So we have new music for that too. And
awesome.
A musical number, actually.
Wow.
Music written by Jamie Stewart of a band called Shoo Shoo, which is a really cool dark art rock band.
Very cool.
Post-punky. And we have alien music, punk music, and then hybrid music.
I love it.
So,
That's so exciting.
Yeah. Are you interested in writing too yourself?
Well, funnily, leading up to, let's say, 98 was when Hedwig premiered, right? So you started writing in 94?
Yeah, a couple blocks away, actually.
Okay. So probably around early 90s, I was toying with poetry. And, but...
Which is lyrics in other form.
Yes. And I'm not someone who shares it very, very publicly. Not yet, at least. But by the time... I used to go to Squeezebox, and I saw you perform there.
You did? You saw me do Hedwig?
No, you.
As me?
Yeah, oh. You were there, and you were doing some of your material. I remember very clearly. I was there with my friends Christian and Cindy, and we would go on Fridays. I think it was Friday nights, and we were there. And you, Mistress Formica, was not performing. You popped up.
I was the guest host, I think. Yeah, for Mistress Formica.
Absolutely. And I was in the house.
Was Debbie Harry performing?
Yes, she sure
night?
was.
Oh, God, that was exciting.
It was awesome. And so, but that whole scene, and eventually later seeing that, like, I never forgot your performance that night, and then seeing Hedwig later and seeing that was a journey, and sort of putting it together in my head. My poetry's really. That's when I really started to write. So it really influenced me because I then gave myself permission to have a voice, have my voice.
Cool.
And so, yeah.
That's the best compliment when someone doesn't imitate or something. It's just like, oh, you freed me up, right? That's the people that that's cool. Thank you.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. Yeah. I miss Squeezebox.
Yeah, it was a good time. Yeah. I loved that place.
Yeah. I don't know if there can be a place like that again.
Yeah.
But
future New York.
Yeah. It's a future New York. Yeah. I was talking to some kid. I'm like, I'm too tired to do anything new in a ground level. Please do something. Sometimes I feel like the internet is the ADD thing kind of stops some people. from being productive. Other people, it activates them. But I think in our culture, sometimes it kind of just numbs out and keeps people busy rather than actually, if you know too much, you don't always try to make something new.
It's true.
Because you feel overwhelmed by the history of what's been
information.
done.
Yep.
And my favorite things have kind of been done in the dark where people don't know a lot,
Yeah.
weird things. And maybe you need to turn things off to do that work.
I agree.
To not share it too early, not over-research, not put out an early like if I had put out our videotape of my first Hedwig gig, I might not have continued because looking at it later, I was like, well, that's not very good. This had something, but I don't think you should be judging or posting too soon when you're developing something.
I agree.
Because a stray user comment, when people are cruel just because they feel voiceless, so they shout something mean out, can shut down an impulse.
I agree with that.
So I do recommend people turning things off or down while they're getting things done. But also don't be afraid to share it in a limited way, in a reading way, in a non-global way, until it's ready.
I agree with that completely.
Because the baby can get deformed if it comes out of the womb too early.
Yeah. Oh, that's very good. I have, I don't know if this is too personal, but a question about like personal influences, people in your life who helped shape the path or carve the way or...
My high school drama teacher,
awesome.
Of course.
One of mine is here, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the guy I hugged.
Oh.
On the way up. Yeah, he's one of the three. Yeah. I'm sorry, but continue.
Oh, yeah. And they're very important people. Certain teachers. Pat Heron. My first play was a Pinter play in high school.
Which?
The birthday party. I didn't know it was weird. It was just what you did, Yeah. And my mom, who directed me in high school when, the mean principal canceled theater, like the Grinch, like canceled theater.
Canceled? Theater is canceled.
Yeah. It was just like Footloose or something.
Right.
And he was a terrible priest who, did terrible things. And later, I somehow got theater back, but the teachers hated the principal, so no one wanted to direct, so I had to get my mom to direct the play.
Oh my gosh. But that's awesome that she did.
I was like, I was creating this vehicle for myself, and then she didn't give me the part I wanted. I wanted to play the middle-aged diplomat in the Noel Coward piece, and she gave me the young proto-gay part that I should have been playing, and I was like, Mother, created a monster.
That's awesome.
But she was an artist, and she was very empowering for creativity.
That's what did she do? Was she a writer, singer? Or?
She was an artist, a painter, a watercolorist, and she did portraits, and she did Kirk Douglas's portrait. And
wow.
Yeah, she was a very good artist. She is a very good artist. And, said you can do anything artistically and just go for it. My dad was in the Army, and he was very practical and good guy, which helped. He wanted me to be in the Army, and then later when he saw me directing, he realized that I was kind of did what he did,
Yep.
which is benevolent dictator.
Yes.
As a director.
Amazing.
Yeah. So my drama teacher, I had a great mentor in college, Frank Galati, who was a real legendary theater figure. He, brought Grapes of Wrath, adapted that and directed it on Broadway in the first Ragtime. And
yes.
He taught me that any text can be theater if you bring it on stage. Stories, novels, nonfiction. He did a crazy musical version of Confederacy of Dunces and Invitation to a Beheading, which was a Nabokov piece. Yeah, and musicals of those, which didn't move on because they were in college settings, and the estates, would be very difficult about that. But he taught me about Beckett and Nabokov, and did a brilliant solo production of Pale Fire by Nabokov that really affects me to this day.
Wow.
So been lucky.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And to have it in your family, like the creativity.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So that's my favorite thing to do is to see if there's a way that I can help other people access imagination and creativity, to reduce, there's economic, priorities, but there's also, they say you can't live on art, but you live to make art.
Yes.
And those are, art has educational value. It has an antidepressive value.
Yes.
It has a philosophical value. It focuses you. You actually realize what's important as you create or as you absorb art. What moves you is what's important in your life, for better or worse. And it's a way of focusing. It's a lens on the world to make sense of it, to make yourself feel less lonely because you're sharing, experiences that other people have, and also to create community.
Very much.
I moved around a lot as a kid, and it was plays and films that are my family's,
Amazing.
And they're temporary, so you don't have to deal with the...
Right, it's true. It's so true. That is outstanding. Did you always want to be an artist? Was there ever another calling at all?
I think when I was younger, I kind of liked the idea of architect, but that's an artist. Writing is my first love, and will probably be the thing I end up doing when I let go of acting and directing. But it's fun to use the different parts of your brain. The acting is very, invigorating and like exercise, emotional exercise.
Yes.
The writing is going inside. The directing is the family stuff and the practicality and the surprise of the collaborators' work. So I like those three things in different forms. I like the television form.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I like theater. I'll probably end up writing, fiction and reading stories,
Awesome.
So it's all, and I'd like to make an album someday. I'm co-writing the music and lyrics for the new musical, which is new for me because I don't play an instrument.
Oh,
do you?
I. No. Yeah, I don't either. That's why I never really went beyond the poetry. It's like, the words, and that's it.
I was always scared of, I couldn't write a melody if I didn't play an instrument, but I've been working with my new composer and finding that he does a cool exercise, which I think anyone should try if they have a musical partner, if they don't play something, is write 20 songs in 12 hours.
Whoa.
Because you let go of
the judgment?
Yeah, you're just doing it. And he would write a musical bed, and I'd go in the other room and write a melody and lyrics.
Wow.
While he was writing the next thing. And it just frees things up. And I'd never done it before, and it was really exciting.
That sounds awesome.
And new.
Yeah. And a little terrifying.
Yeah, and just on
awesome.
GarageBand, just layer it. And I realized I knew I could double my voice, which is something a theater person doesn't ever think about.
Well, that's what Lin created in the Heights on GarageBand.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Literally, all those tracks. We would get these little CDs that he recorded the night before. And
see, those are the ones I want to see on the audiobook.
Right? I know.
Right?
Yeah, there's a million versions of these songs too for Hamilton. I
think that could be inspiring for people to realize it comes from very simple and not be overwhelmed, for people to think that they can do it themselves.
That's very true. That's very, very true.
Yeah.
Plant the idea.
Yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure.
Yes, it has.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just elated to have met you.
Nice to meet you. Now I gotta pee.
And you're shining like the brightest star, a transmission on the midnight radio. And you're spinning like a 45 ballerina, dancing to your rock and roll.
Hi, I'm Elia Einhorn, and you've been listening to the Talkhouse Music Podcast. Subscribe on iTunes to receive all of our new Talkhouse Music and Talkhouse Film podcast episodes. Thanks to Samsung 837 for hosting this series of live conversations, to Giant Step for coordination, and to Javier Muñoz and John Cameron Mitchell for such a wonderful talk. This was made into a podcast by Mark Yoshizumi. Visit thetalkhouse.com to read intelligent and notable musicians and filmmakers writing about the latest in music and film. Later.